Hi guys. Excuse me. Welcome to the chat. I decided to surprise you a little bit. I'm sure you can still hear that I am congested and the list goes on. But I wanted to surprise you tonight. I'm usually really interested in doing my Wednesday live YouTube videos. And so I was in the office today. I had to come back to work. And then I'm going to go on another brief vacation so I can kind of heal up a little bit. Excuse me, but I've been through a lot recently. Okay, let me just say my health. Um, but I wanted to at least do a video, a live video, see if I can get you guys to kind of trickle over. I'm sure you're going to get the notification that I am live on YouTube. Oh my God, Cherish Jubilee. Hello, welcome to the chat. I'm sure you guys will get those notifications. So let me briefly explain what I'm doing here. Hi Vanessa, I see you on there. Um, Let me explain what I'm doing in here. So I had a video pre-recorded for you guys where we could talk a little bit about how psychology has failed you and how they have failed your family and maybe failed at giving you the tools that you need. So I did a video, but then I thought, you know what, I'm in the office, I've been talking all day long with this voice, I might as well do a brief YouTube live just to reconnect with all of you. Hi D, I see you, welcome to the chat. And so that's what I'm doing here. So let me explain what's going on briefly with me. I totally went down on Thursday of last week. I don't know what happened. Someone must have given me a cold, COVID, something, So I was really, really, really sick. And it took me 5 days before I got laryngitis. And so now I'm here with laryngitis. And so I know I sound a little bit off, a little bit strange, and I apologize for that. But again, I wanted to kind of see you live and kind of reconnect with you. I feel like I've been disconnected for so long. So, hi, George. Welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for all that positivity. Hello there. Greetings to you as well. Too much vacation. Yes. Oh my God. I posted like a story and I that was like right at the day I was like feeling it all and I was getting really sick. And I said on my story, I'm like, this is called leisure sickness. And in case you guys don't know what that is, that's when you do so much work, like you're so overly active when it comes to work. The minute you pause, you go down. And that's really what happened to me. So, laryngitis and all, I'm here and I want to jump into this topic, which is, why has therapy failed me? Like, I don't understand. Why has the photo psychology failed me? So I'm going to go through a few things, connect with you guys, and then I'm out because I got to go home, get in bed, drink some more tea. So, hi, Dragon. I see you. Welcome to the chat. Yes, yes. I'm so glad to see you. Blessed in every area of my life. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Um, yes. Thank you so much, Dee. I appreciate that. I'm on the mend, as they say. I'm on my way to doing much better. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit, guys, and then I'm going to actually post the recorded video of this topic probably next Wednesday or so, just so I'll have some recovery time. But let me just say, I I love my field, and I guess you guys can kind of tell that. I love connecting with people. I love connecting with you guys. Excuse me, and I really like the mental stimulation I get from the field. However, there's a lot wrong with it. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. Let me get some water. Hold on, guys. Excuse me. I don't mean that in an arrogant, self-righteous way by any means. Um, but I think there's a lot wrong with it. And I'm going to point some of that out tonight. I'm sure a lot of you have either gone to therapy or were suggested that you should go to therapy, and you were just like, no, I don't like this. And that's okay. There's a lot of reason not to like the field. I think therapy is healthy, it's helpful. I think talking about your emotions and your feelings is healthy and helpful. I also think trying to make your family dynamic work is healthy and helpful. However, if you get some of the things that I'm going to point out in tonight's brief live chat, it's not going to work for you. So Um, Hi, Penny C. So glad to see you. I just looked over. I love it. Good. I'm so glad to see you. Thank you so much. I'm on the mend. In case you didn't hear that earlier, I'm getting better. Um, but I think all of that is healthy. But if you have the wrong kind of therapist, if you have an unethical therapist, if you have just the wrong dynamic between you and your family member and somebody else as a third party, like a professional, it's going to go downhill. Like it's not going to be useful in any stretch. So let me start with this before my voice gives out. I think the number one issue that I have with my own field, and maybe you guys have as well, let me know in the chat box, is there's a lack of spiritual knowledge. Here's what I mean by that. We are trained on how to manage a crisis, deal with a suicidal client, talk to someone who's depressed, deal with anxiety. There's tons of books on the market that can give you self-help, that can, help you get the answers that you need. But if you have a whole field that's focused on healing, and leaves out the most important part of your healing, which is that, excuse me, that spiritual, existential, sometimes religious view of human behavior. When you have that left out of the equation, you're not going to get a full picture of who you are as a human being. Right? So, a lack of spiritual knowledge that is sorely missing in this field. You're never going to have a therapist say, maybe say a prayer tonight, or maybe journal to God, or take a long, cleansing spiritual walk with no cell phone, nothing. Just walk and be present with nature. You're not going to hear that too often. We do have meditation, we have yoga in the field. We also have some existential therapists who are really good at this, but for the most part, you're not going to get it. One of the biggest reasons why is insurance coverage. Therapists can't integrate spiritual knowledge 100%. So what happens, you drop one thing and you pursue the other. And so most people in the field of psychology, not just in therapy, they pursue the thing that is the most popular, or that can bring in the most money, or that can be billed by insurance, or billed to insurance companies, I should say. And unfortunately, spiritual knowledge and awakening is not on that piece of paper for them. The next thing that I've noticed is training and education. The field of psychology, it does well, but that knowledge ends somewhere. And sometimes, if you're dealing with really complicated things like personality disorders, really toxic and dysfunctional family dynamics, suicide, the list goes on. Some therapists just have not had that experience with other clients to be able to help you. And it doesn't always mean that they're cold or they're detached. It could just mean that they absolutely have no idea what they're doing. The other part of this, the other part of this is, let's say, for example, you take your family member, whoever's toxic and dysfunctional to you, to therapy, and that therapist hasn't had training in family dynamics. You're not going to get anywhere, because training and education may be limited. That's really what I'm getting at here. Training in therapy and education may be limited, unfortunately. Let me also point out here, too, that not every therapist goes through the same level of training. So you're going to get kind of stuck there as well. I personally have had 10 years training, so 10 years education. And I was, getting certifications and license and working in different places and really kind of engulfing myself in the field, if you will. It was my passion. There are also some psychotherapists who go for 15 years, and sometimes they go back and they're in school for 20 years. There are also some therapists who go for 6 years and they're done, and they don't really follow up with their education. They're not interested in kind of bumping themselves up personally and professionally to another level. So every professional has a different level of awareness and expertise. And so, that makes it really tricky. Maybe I'm sitting here in my office and I'm very experienced with trauma, and you can go maybe a couple miles up the road and get someone who just graduated from college. So it's a hit and a miss. That's what I'm pointing out here. It's hit miss. I'm also going to say here too, lack of knowledge or personality disorders can really keep you stuck. So let me explain what I mean by this. There are some therapists, some psychologists, some people who study human behavior. They have absolutely no personal experience with personality disorders. So you come to this person, asking for help to help you manage your dysfunctional family or help you manage your mother, help you manage your father, maybe even help you manage your own deep and dark secrets is what I'm trying to say. And if that professional hasn't had any experience whatsoever, right, with what you're dealing with or with personality disorders that may be in your family, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just wasting your time. So again, education and training varies. And so honestly, healing varies as well. You may get healing from one provider that maybe you're not going to get from another one. Okay, let me break, get a throat lozenge, and let me keep going. Okay, okay, let's see. Oh my God, I'm so behind. Okay, hold on, guys, bear with me, okay? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to say Cray Nose 144, if I said that right. Try some cider vinegar and honey. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. I actually tried, excuse me, I actually tried kombucha, and let me tell you, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again. Then when I looked at the bottle and it was like 0.000% alcohol, I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm not gonna do this. I need to be with it. So thank you. It was horrible tasting kombucha, but it did kind of help. Okay. Cherry's Jubilee says, if they failed me in any way, it was that therapist would listen. Oh God, I'm messing this up. Cherry's Jubilee. I don't understand what you're saying. Oh, okay. So you're sharing that you were actively being abused, and the therapist would ask you how you're feeling about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cherry's Jubilee. Sometimes therapists can seem like they are really like far out there. They're not connecting with you. And so therapists were trained to understand what's called rapport building, building that connection and that relationship. Unfortunately, because the therapist can sometimes be broken as well, it's hard for them to connect. We also have to consider what was the therapist's experience when it came to attachment. Right? Are they loving? Are they giving? Are they emotional? What am I sitting in front of here? So sometimes therapists can be really detached, and there's a variety of reasons for that. Hi, Joanna Robinson. Glad to see you. Welcome. Okay, let me keep going. I don't want to use up too much time. Yeah, I agree with that. Cherry's Jubilee says faith of all kinds should be respected. Yeah, agree. Nicole Mitchell, welcome to the chat. Nice to have you. She says, Tamara, it is hard for me to open up. I was like this all my life. I was real moody due to the fact that no one was there for me, but you would understand me, Tamara. Oh, that's so, so sweet. I, yes, yeah. Let me just say that I want to comment on two things on your comment. Um, yeah. Yeah. Let me just say, and I don't know if you've ever been in therapy before or if you've had somebody that you can rely on. And I don't want to make this video completely about what the field of psychology has done wrong. But let me just say, I think there's a lot of stigma attached to being moody and emotional and needy. And unfortunately, the field of psychology has been very, very slow in trying to minimize that stigma. And so for people like you, Nicole, um, who feel kind of misunderstood and all alone, you may kind of say, no, I don't want a therapist. They're just going to judge me and make me feel less than, overwhelmed, misunderstood. The list goes on. Part of that may be true with some. I don't know. I don't want to minimize that there are some therapists like that. But let me just say the field of psychology has been we're getting better, but it has been very, very, very slow in how it minimizes that stigma, unfortunately. Okay. D. Elliott says, saw a Christian therapist who didn't believe in PTSD. She did a lot of harm. Yeah, absolutely. Let me address this for a second. I can see exactly where you're coming from. There are some therapists who have really, really strong beliefs. And unfortunately, that clouds their view when it comes to treating their clients and really being there for you. Being a therapist is very self sacrificing. And unfortunately, some in the field just don't know how to do that, you know? Maybe their intentions are good, but not everyone in the field knows how to be self-sacrificing, you know? I think sometimes it's okay to kind of keep your beliefs to yourself and then help that person who's in front of you and who needs you, you know? I'm sorry that happened to you. I think it's very damaging. Okay. Uh Thank you, fairy girl. She says, "Hello, beautiful being. Sorry I was late. Miss Tim is being tough and stuff today. I'm trying. I really am. I let me just say, I think some of this laryngitis though is giving me like hot flashes. Okay, although I'm at the age I should get hot flashes. Let me say, but yeah, it's like I'm hot. I'm hot for sure. Okay. Yes, I'm trying to be tough, fairy girl. Green Dragon says, I've seen a lot of psychiatrists online, a lot. There's so many. I love Dr. Yes. I do like him as well. I do. I think it is pretty good. It just kind of conceptualizing the field and conceptualizing, human behavior. Yeah, he definitely has had a lot of experience. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep. Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Green Dragon. You know, when you're meeting a therapist, he or she says, learn as much as you can, take a notebook with you, ask questions, and do your own homework. Yeah, absolutely. Sharon S., welcome to the chat. Glad to have you. Says, I had a therapist blame me for being attacked on my job. When I experienced it to her, I felt even worse. I even have police report to back up my story. That's a hard one, right? Because every therapist conceptualizes their clients differently. Um, and that's the hard part. I think it takes a really loving heart to hear the story and hear the client before judging it. And then once it's been evaluated over time, right? Within that therapist, then maybe they can share. I'm just a little concerned about what you said here. This doesn't add up there. That kind of thing. Um, so it sounds like a skill deficit, that your therapist may have lacked the ability to accept what you're saying without sharing that they are doubtful. That's a skill in and of itself, and you have to develop that over time. Okay. Excuse me. Fairy Girl says, even with a good therapist, I can hurt like an intense workout can. I mean, very, very much agree. I very, very much agree. Um, Therapy is hard. It is. It is what it is. It's hard. Okay, before I continue these comments, let me give you the last few, you know, pieces of why maybe psychology and the field of psychology has failed you. Let me throw this in as the next thing. We left off at lack of knowledge of personality disorders. Let me just say, not everybody in the field has had personal or professional experience to be able to say, I know what a dysfunctional family member is. I know what a narcissistic mother is. I know exactly what a sociopathic cousin is. A lot of them don't have that kind of experience. Have I? No, not personally. I have some family members. I'm like, something's wrong here. But have I had personal experience within my family? No. But have I had personal experience outside of my family with a sociopath, a psychopath, and a narcissist? 100%. And that kind of helps informs how I educate you guys. So if the therapist or whoever it is in the field of psychology doesn't have that experience, it kind of drops them a little bit in how they're able to relate to you. I actually had a client come in a few weeks ago, and she said she went to a therapist after she tragically lost her mom. And she said she went to a therapist and she cried. And she said she just doesn't know how she's going to live life without her mom. Well, she told me she stopped going because the therapist told her that it's been 6 months and it's time to get up, stop crying, and start healing. And that it was time to engage in post traumatic growth. And my client just felt that was um, very harsh, very cold. Was it intended that way? Probably not. But it is what it is. It's that skill deficit again. Maybe this is a therapist who doesn't get it. Maybe this is a therapist that just doesn't have that personal and professional experience with loss, right? So they can't help you maybe like they would if they experienced it. If that makes sense. So having that real knowledge is essential. Overly theorized concepts, practices, and beliefs. It's so easy to pick up a book and read it in front of you as a professional in the field and say, you know what, I'm going to try that tomorrow. Or I have a great understanding of that. It's really hard to act that out. So theory is different from real experience. And so the field of psychology can fail you in that way as well. Tons of big, elaborate theories, but really little action. You know what I mean? Really big numbers, statistics, research, the list goes on, but there's little work on the ground that's going on. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with the field of psychology. There's tons of research, theories, numbers, studies, and trials, but very little practical movement in the right direction. If you're dealing with a narcissistic parent, a sociopathic parent, an unhealthy family, you don't care about 55% of the nation who's going through it. You want to know what's going on in your world and how you can fix it, right? And so sometimes the field is very limited in that way. I think too that you are, and most people are reduced to a diagnostic label. It's really hard to go to a therapist and say, I don't really have a diagnosis. I just have a problem with being raised under a mother who's a narcissist. I have a problem with being raised with a father that's a sociopath. I'm fine. I have no diagnostic labels. I don't need them. I just need help on how to get through my life with this kind of a family member, with this kind of a parent. And sadly, the field of psychology cannot necessarily do that for you. They have to give you a diagnosis, whether or not you deserve one or you need one. And that's the sad part. So you get reduced to that label. Lastly, I think we all need to, in this field, we need to better integrate. We're too separated. So we're separated from philosophy. We're separated from existentialism. We're separated from Christianity. We're separated from religion. Like we're separated. There's no integration. And so we need that in this field. We're practically at a standstill in some areas, but we need to advance, and we can't do that to help you, support you, if we're so not integrated. I don't even know if there's a such word as disintegrated. Probably not. Um, but you know what I'm getting at. We're too separated. There's no cohesion, and that's the sad part. All right, guys, let me go to the comments. I'm gonna read this, then I'm gonna go home because I need to go to bed. I really do. But I have missed you guys. I really have. So, okay. Okay. So Kyra knows 144. I may have gotten it right that time. Says, I'm glad my last one was a failure because that led me here to Tara. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. That's so, so sweet. Um, yeah. Some people do watch my channel and other awesome channels for their psychotherapy. I think it's healthy. I do. Okay. Joanna Robinson says, my therapist said if he went through half of what I did, he would have committed suicide already. I never went back. Oh my God. Yeah, that's not what you want to say. Can things slip as a therapist and you say the wrong thing? Yeah, yeah. Have I done it in my past? When I was new, over 13 years ago, I may have said a couple of things. The parent was like, "Did she just say that?" I'm sure I've done something. But yeah, that honestly, that would have been an unethical statement that could have led to some really serious consequences because, in a way, it's kind of giving you that pass to think about committing suicide. So that was all wrong. Auntie Lou, so glad to see you. Welcome to the chat. Auntie Lou says, I'm blessed by my psychiatrist, understands my toxic family. I have been with her for years since I had stopped working. That is beautiful. That's wonderful. Um, I think that there are some really talented, really special, beautiful people in this field, and you can tell that they have been God sent, And there are others I'm like, oh, I don't know, you know, but I know a few therapists, and they may be watching. I don't know, but if you are, I know who you are. You know who I'm talking about. They are two of the most important people in my life. They are wonderful therapists. So, so glad, Auntie Lou, that you have a psychiatrist that you can depend on. That's beautiful. I have some of the kids that come here and see me. One said it tonight. He's like, Miss Tamara, guess what? I'm like, what? He's like, first of all, you sound strange, but then guess what? So, we laughed at that. He's like, well, guess what? I'm like, what? He's like, I'm never leaving. I'm like, good. I'll keep seeing you till you're 90. And we laughed that off. But when you have that connection, that's powerful. And he sees, oh my God, whoops. Ay, ay, ay. I hit the wrong button. Oh my goodness, what did I do? Okay, hold on, guys. Bear with me, okay? Okay. Penny C says, my therapist never mentioned family dynamics. I would recount my problems and cry, but nothing was resolved. I figured out decades later that there was a family dynamic problem. Absolutely. Um, and again, Penny C, first of all, I'm sorry that happened to you because it may have delayed your healing or your treatment because your therapist just wasn't aware. Um, but honestly, you're kind of pointing out the reality of what I'm already saying, which is that every therapist has a different degree of knowledge. And so maybe this therapist just wasn't aware. And so kind of regressed you maybe a little bit or kept you stuck in one place because the therapist just simply didn't know or just didn't mention it. That can be hard. Green Dragon says, I went to a therapist. You told me to go see a neurosurgeon. And the way I walk, he said, it must have been on PCP. And I said, no, we didn't believe. Oh, I said, no, he didn't believe me. I walked out the door and I didn't even pay him. Oh my God. I mean, I don't blame you. Although, kind of have to pay the guy for the schedule. He took some time out, but I totally get you. I have a client that did that to her previous provider as well. Sometimes they can leave you feeling hurt, angry, and so you don't want to do anything in return for them. Hi, Courtney. So glad to see you. Welcome to the chat. Oh my God. In high school, therapy was used as a threat by school staff. Ooh. So, like school counseling, like school counselors within the school. I have fantastic relationships with school counselors in my area. But there are some where things leak out to the kids, and the other kids are talking about the other kids, and it's a mess. It's a mess. Black girls getting their shift together. Sounds like I'm cursing, but I'm not. Yes, I'm so glad to see you live. Welcome to the chat. I'm sorry, my voice sounds like this. I'm getting better, I promise. And I hope I'm back up and running next Wednesday. Tian, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. She or he says, or he, I think it's he, says it was easier becoming my own therapist and finding one. Oh my God. I'm so going to use that in sessions with clients who are feeling hurt by the field. I like that. Sometimes you do have to be your own therapist, and that is therapeutic, and that's totally okay. Sometimes you have to, as my mom used to tell me, talk to yourself, comfort yourself, renew yourself, right? Find all those things that matter to you that can heal you, because you're probably not going to find it easily. It's out there. It's just figuring out where, you know? Yes, Vanessa agrees with you, TN. I do too. Um, Cherry's Jubilee, I see you saying he needed therapy. Oh God. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Then I gotta get out of here, guys. Oh, oh, thank you, Auntie Lou. Welcome. I'm so glad I have you now as a subby. Thank you. Thank you so much. D. Elliott says, sometimes my therapist is hard pushing, calling me out, etc. Okay. Sometimes my therapist is hard pushing, calling me out, etc. But I know she's doing her job. And because of that, I do grow and heal. Yeah, that's so beautifully said. Absolutely. I've had clients walk out of my office in tears and I'm feeling so bad. I'm like, oh my God, what did I say? Like, you know, and then they come back to the session and they're like, thank you. Thank you. And sometimes I'm like, is that sarcastic? And no, and I think you're right. Um, D. Elliot, I think you're right. Sometimes that nudging we're doing with you guys and prodding, we're trying to like shape you to think in new, healthy, and deeper ways. So sometimes it is all in love, that's for sure. I'm so glad you mentioned that. All right. Yes, very good. Black girl's getting there. Shift Together says, my therapist is God sent. That's so great. I'm so glad to hear that. That is good. G Guy, welcome to the chat. I don't think I've ever seen you before. Says, my therapist did not even want to give me a label until I asked for a diagnosis. I thought that's a good way to diagnose a patient. Absolutely. Let me say there are different views of this. So I'll give you my clinical, my personal view. So my personal view is this: that a lot of clients are reduced to a label. That shouldn't even be ethical, honestly. There's a lot to humans. And I think we are intricate. I think we are inherently complex. And to take one label that has a bunch of criteria that sometimes doesn't fit at all, and we label you with that and say, "Yep, you've got ADHD," is really limiting. It's limiting and sometimes even condescending and offensive, and it hurts, right? You may pull your therapeutic record and look at it and be like, "What? I don't think I have that." Or maybe you kind of feel like, is this the way my therapist has been seeing me for the past 20 years? So labels and diagnoses are tough. Some therapists are really skilled and they do a very good job at diagnosing. Sometimes they will diagnose based on what they've observed. They will consider what you think is the issue. That's probably what happened to you, G Guy. Your therapist probably said, "Oh, you're concerned about this label. Let me do some tests, some research, and see maybe that is what you have." That's probably what happened to you. And there are also some therapists like myself who takes almost a few weeks, maybe a month, before I give you a firm diagnosis. And then I will document in your file that this diagnosis stands as of this date, but is likely to change upon further information being obtained, or. So therapists, again, that varies, right? Some therapists are good at that, some are not, unfortunately. But it sounds like you have a good therapist, G Guy. Okay. Yeah, Auntie Lou says if you feel you require medication, do a consultation with a psychiatrist. Excellent, excellent suggestion. They went to medical school. In my opinion, some mental illnesses require it. Absolutely. You can call a psychiatrist and be like, can I come in for a first appointment just to talk about some concerns I have? Go from there. I like that, Auntie Lou. Thank you for that. Hi, Natasha B. Glad to see you. Welcome. Thank you so much, Natasha B. I love that. I'm not sure I understand the question, but just know I love your comment. Thank you so much for that. Okay, George, I'm gonna get you in here, George. George says, "Love you, Tamara. Thanks, and have a beautiful night. Appreciate you, highly blessed." Oh, thank you, George. Love to you, hearts to you. I love all your icons. Thank you so much. Um, Courtney Frazier says, "I get I was saying things they didn't want to say, but having to go see someone outside of school for therapy." And using that as a threat was uncalled for. Very much agree. There should not be a threat at all. Okay. Have a wonderful evening, guys. I love you. I'm going to pause here because, like, I'm suffering here a little bit. I love you. Thank you so much for your continued support. Have a great night. I will see you maybe on Sunday with a video. Hopefully next Wednesday. Love you so much. Bye, guys.